CLN2 is a lysosomal storage disorder. So the lysosome would normally take up peptide chains like this, along with many other materials that are cellular wastes. And one of the enzymes that would help metabolize these peptides would be TPP1, which is deficient in CLN2 disease. So TPP1 is tripeptidyl peptidase 1, and it is a serine protease with mainly exoprotease activity at the N-terminal. So generally, it'll cut off 3 amino acid segments from the N-terminal of a peptide. It does have some weak endopeptidase activity, but it's a lot better working at the N-terminal. So in a normal cell with TPP1, it would look like this, with well broken down amino acids. However, if we zoom out to a picture of a lysosome in a cell in a patient with TPP1 deficiency, or CLN2 disease, we see a buildup of several materials. The first notable material would be autofluorescent lipopigments, and this is due to those lysosomal irregularities. The other material that builds up that scientists haven't completely found a link to yet is extra ATP synthase C subunits, and those accumulate in the cell as well. And so all of these cellular irregularities cause issues with lipid trafficking, with calcium trafficking, and just general toxicity to the cell, which eventually leads to apoptosis. And so if we look at the more macro level of what this apoptosis looks like in a patient's brain, we can see on photo D that the gyri and sulci are extremely pronounced in this patient's brain, and this is an MRI of a patient who has CLN2 disease, and they're so pronounced because of the atrophy of normal brain material. And then here in photo H, you can see that the cerebellum is highly atrophied, and that is a key thing to look for when diagnosing patients with Batten disease and CLN2 disease. So the treatment for CLN2 disease is brineura, cerliponase alpha, which is a recombinant enzyme that's infused directly into the brain using an intraventricular access device. So in an intraventricular access device, the reservoir is implanted under the scalp on top of the skull and connected to a catheter that goes right into the lateral ventricle. And so the patient will come in weekly for infusions of cerliponase alpha. And these take about 4.5 hours to make sure that the brain isn't overwhelmed with extra pressure or with electrolyte imbalance. And the infusion is actually followed with an electrolyte infusion as well to maintain that really important balance. And so the TPP1 replacement enzyme, cerliponase alpha, is diffused directly into the brain because the TPP1 deficiency causes the most issues in the neurons, because those are the cells that are extremely sensitive to the accumulation of the lipopigments and other toxic materials.